Okay, good morning. So what I'd like to look at today is just another one of the kalim of the Beit Hamikdash, but it's really the cover. So the Torah tells us at the beginning of Shmot Chaf Vav, it said Ve'et Hamishkan ta'aseh eser yeriot. So for the Mishkan, it says you must make these eser yeriot. Eser yeriot, 10 curtains, let's call them curtains, 10 tapestries. Eseriot sheish moshzar, and they must be made out of different finely twined like linen, or techelet, vargaman, vatolat shani, and all these different materials that were made for the yeriot. Kruvim maaseh choshev taseotam, and it really must be with kruvim. There need to be these kruvim inside somehow in the tapestry, in the work of the actual tapestries themselves, and it must be maaseh choshev. Maaseh choshev, when we translate that, means it must be like thought out work that is important. Now, in the minute we hear the eser yeriot, the concept of 10 yeriot, it must be that has to connect to something that we know about what 10 is. Because 10 is always going to be an important figure, a number in our world. We know that that the world was created with 10 utterances. We know that 10 is the Aseret HaDibrot. We know that 10 is a fundamental number. And what is the purpose of these 10 yeriot? So comes along Rashi and says, Liot lo lagag ulemechitzot michutz lakrashim. It's very simple. You know what these yeriot are? These yeriot are here just to serve as the gag, as the roof of the Mishkan. Shayriot tuluyim acharem liksotam, because the yeriot are used. They hang them on the beams, and they just cover everything. So we already see that there's this concept that that is being pointed out of the 10 things covering, and then it tells us the following: 28 cubits for the 1 yeria, v'rochav arba ba'ama, and the breadth has to be 4 cubits, and all the midah achat b'chol yeriot, and each of the yeriot have to be the exact same size. That's number one. But also then it divides them. 5 yeriot tiene chovrot isha lachota, ו5 yeriot chovrot isha lachota. What has to happen is that there have to be 5 curtains together and 5 curtains together. So we can really see there must be some indication of something to do with the Aseret HaDibrot, must have to do with Ben Adam Lechavero, Ben Adam Lemakom. It has to be, because why is it dividing in that way? What is this 28? Why does it have to be 28 cubits? So what is 28? So it's an important aspect of 28. If we remember, we spoke about the fact that the Mishkan is really a olam katan. It's like this whole world that was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but so too the human being is an olam katan. And it's an amazing thing that the yeriah, which covers everything, the yeriot, that cover everything, have to be each 28 cubits, and then they have to have 4 cubits, 4 amot. So the 28 is very simple, because the 28 is the word of koach. It's the concept of strength. And where do we find the strength? The strength is in what is the covering? What are the things that protect? So if we look carefully, we'll see that if you look at your hands, it's quite interesting. I saw this somewhere. I cannot remember where, but I saw it. This whole concept of the 28. That if you look at your hands, a person's hands, what's a hand in Hebrew is a yad. And a yad is 14. Yud dalet. And on your hand, you've got 14 digits in each. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 digits in your fingers, or 14 bones. I'm sure there's a proper medical term for that. But there are 14 bones in the fingers. Why are there 14? Because that's what yad is. And when you put your 2 yadayim together, that's where you get your koach. So there's an idea that's clear that each of these yeriot are coming to as a protection, like the hands protect us and the hands do things. So too the yeriot are indicative of that. They're indicative of the 5 Ben Adam Lechavero, Ben Adam Lemakom, And what is it? They are what? They are chovrot isha el achota. Each one of them are chovrot. They are totally bound with one another. The concept of chibur means to be bound, to be connected, to be totally with each other. And what's so important then for us is to understand that the purpose of the year, which covers, which protects, is about chevra, let's call it, about the coming together of disparate things in order to create a protection. Very much so the way that we as Am Yisrael should be thinking in the way that in our lives. Okay. The it carries on and it says, that you must make these loops, these lulaot, of what? Of the techelet, on the edge of the curtain, mikatza b'choveret, and that's going to be the edge of, that's going to be the thing that's going to use for the connection. So there are all these little loops on each side of the yeriot, in order to be the thing that's going to be what's going to couple them together. And how many of these are there? 50 You have to make 50 loops at the edge of each side, and these loops, they need to be connected to one another. And you loop these two things. So you've got a thing of techelet and a thing of techelet, and then they looped together with a clasp, and that clasp is the karsei zahav, is made out of gold. Chibarta et yeriot isha el achota bakrasim, and then again it says you keep the refrain of this whole discussion of the yeriot is this concept of the chibarta, of linking together. Vaya mishkan echad, and when they are all come together, vaya hamishkan echad, then the Mishkan is one. And let's try and understand a little bit of what this is all about using the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar goes through a number of different things, and he says the following. He says, let's first understand that what are these numbers 10 and 5, and we understand that, but what is the big number of number 50? Why is 50 such an important thing? We've spoken about Aseret HaDibrot. We spoke about Ben Adam L'Chaver, Ben Adam L'Makom. We spoke about the fact that they all come together. But why is 50 such an important number? Where do you find the number 50? So the Torah's number 50 that we find really is in the number of days from Pesach to Shavuot, that period of time that moves us from the extraction of the Jewish people from Mitzrayim, where they were nothing. They were a group, a nation of slaves on a terribly low level, a nation of slaves that were involved in Avodah Zarah, a nation of slaves that didn't even want to come out, some of them. They didn't even have a connection to Hashem. They just were drawn out. They were pulled out. They were sent out by Paro. So what is the 50? When they move from that state to ultimately get to the state of what? Of 50 days later, where they're standing at Har Sinai and they get the Torah. And so therefore says the Kli Yakar, you know what the 50 is? The 50 is, as the Baal HaTurim points out, that is neged the Nun Sha'arei Bina. It corresponds to the 50 levels of understanding of the human being. That those 50 levels are all part of it. We can't, in our trying to understand what Torah is, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, what this world is, we need to have all 50 levels, and they mentioned in Pirkei Avot and in other places. But those 50 levels are what needs to be the thing that connects the entire Yeriah, the entire Mishkan, and once those are connected, Vayula Achad. That's what the Kli Yakar says, that he's brought from others. But now he says, you know what? I want to tell my own stuff. I want to give over my own understanding. And now he starts, and he says the following. He says, the reason why all of these things are so important is because it's through this that we can connect powerfully to the upper worlds. Mashme, he says, She'im haya shalem b'kulam lo yachaser me'Elohim. Says that if we are complete with this whole process of the building of the Mishkan, there would be nothing missing. at all in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why it says, Nun lela'ot ta'aseh. It says, it speaks about these 50 loops. Ta'aseh b'yeriah. They must be made into the one yeriah, into each of these different fabrics that were being made. It says that why? And then it says va'asita. So those must be made. And then it says that when you make the clasp, you must make the clasp. And he's playing with the language. And that's va'ya mishkan echad. And when that which was made and that which you make come together, then the mishkan is one. Ki al yedei mispar chamishim. Because through the number of 50, says then, because you know what? The number 50 joins the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Because these 5 yeriot, which are the dibrot rishonot, which are the first of the 10 of the aseret dibrot, yesh bahem remez ela elyonim hayoshvim rishona b'malchut shamayim. Says, you know what? When we speak about the first of the 5 of the dibrot, those are specifically, as we call them, ben adam lamakom. But they're not only ben adam lamakom. They also connect us into this very high level of shamayim, up on high, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is engaging on the highest spiritual levels. That's number 1. And the yeriot, which are the second 5, which correspond to the second set of the Aseret HaDibrot, those are the tachtonim. Those are the things that are in this world. And the whole purpose of this is to connect the world that is of a great spirituality and the world that is in the physicality. And that's what the Mishkan brings. And when it brings it together, it brings it and makes it into achat, as he explains. Why? And he wants to say, why is this concept of inyan echad? What is it all about? He says, because within the Mishkan itself, the parochet is mavdil bein hamakom hamiyuchad l'shchinato yitbarach. Because within the Mishkan, there are lots of different separations. And one would think that if there's separations, that might be, says the Kliyakar, it might be that these different things that separate all the time might make you think that the Mishkan is not one holistic entity. And so it comes along the Torah and says, no, vayah Mishkan echad, when you cover the whole thing in this one covering of a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from a ruchni, from a spiritual level, as well as a physical level, then the Mishkan, which looks to be disparate rooms, you've got the Azorah, you've got the Kodesh, you've got the Kodesh Kadoshim, and the different things in all these different places. You might think that they're only that it's not one aspect. No, when you bring it all about understanding, it's a relationship of spirituality and physicality in this world with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and with the people around us, then Vaya HaMishkan Echad, then all those different rooms become one holistic thing, different spaces for us to find our spaces to grow, ultimately through the koach, the strength and the power that we have inside to push through the challenges that we have, be they spiritual, physical, emotional, financial, whatever they are. And we all have different challenges. Some of them are easier, some of them are less. But the whole idea is to push through those to understand that it's all one holistic system. And therefore we have the yeriot, which cover the entire Mishkan, making it into one. I hope that we understand that, we go for that. And please God, Kodesh Baruch Hu should bring us together also as one. And V'haya Mishkan Echad. God bless everybody. Have a good day.